Hello, everyone. Welcome to UCLA Anderson Drive Time Podcast. My name is Raman Vedula, and I'm from the FEMBA class of 2025. We are in the middle of the Celebrate 2025 season. We've had some amazing guests in the past in the few episodes, and today as well, we have an amazing personality. If I have to talk about my pretty good friends here at UCLA Anderson, this person actually tops that list. She's super helpful, super kind, and always smiling. Every time you meet her, she's always smiling. And I always say this, she is the epitome of pleasant aura. And she's none other than Stella Petrosyan. Stella, how are you doing?
Oh, thank you. I always smile and I'll let out a little shriek as well when I see you. But I'm doing really great. How are you?
Thank you so much for asking. I'm doing always good. I'm always good. And welcome to our show. And first of all, because this was a pretty short notice, you were like, oh my God, okay, it's just a week. I'm going to be there. What exactly was going on in your mind to just before entering the studio as well? I want to be as candid as possible.
Yes, I wanted to be as candid as possible and just kind of it's really interesting being able to be on the other side of a podcast. I'm always listening to different podcasts, like just when I'm walking or just on a casual like commute. So I was at first a little bit nervous. I was telling you earlier, I'm like, I have a little bit of stage fright, but if I'm talking, I can go on and ramble for hours. So, and you're the perfect person to do that with.
Oh,
so I'm really excited.
Thank you so much.
And
we are pretty casual in our approach here in the podcast. So we're like having a conversation, just that we have the cameras and then people are listening to our podcast.
And then the bright lights.
Absolutely. Yeah, making us look pretty good, actually. So I would take that. Okay, now let's talk about your Anderson experience here, because for the people who don't know this, Stella is also an employee here at UCLA at Anderson, and she's also a student. So it's a mixture of experiences from two different ends. I mean, if you are the students, you have a lot of complaints at the administration. Come on, I have to be pretty honest. And then Stella is like, oh yeah, as a student I have this, and then as an administrator over here, an employee, I have something else as well. We have to talk about that. Now, talking about your student experience, what made you? Because you've been an employee here at UCLA Anderson much before you have joined your MBA program. What made you decide that, you know what, I have to go do this MBA program?
Yeah, so actually, I knew that I wanted to go to business school back when I was still an undergrad. So it's and UCLA Anderson was actually like on the top of my list, and as actually the only one on my list ever since I started working.
You have to
here.
Be so nice to UCLA Anderson, come on.
No, it really was. Especially like I knew that I wanted to move back to LA. I was at UC Riverside. Loved that school. So glad that I went there. And I was from Glendale originally after moving there from winning the green card lottery. Shout out. So just getting out of that bubble and then wanting to move back to LA and just knowing how many opportunities there are here. UCLA was my number one choice, and I knew I was going to be able to do that by working at the school that I was going to. So I had worked all 4 years during my undergrad. So worked 2 jobs at the school and then worked my weekend job that I still had from high school. And just, I really ended up loving the administrative side of a school and knowing that you don't have to be a professor to work at a university. There's so much more to it. And I was just applying to roles nonstop at UCLA during the summer after graduating. Ended up getting a job at the Central Career Center. Really loved it there. And I think it's really cool the way that we get to work with a lot of different companies, not work with just one. Mm-hmm. So when I was there, it's funny, I actually tried applying to the FEMBA program my first year out of college.
Oh.
With 0 years of full-time work experience. And I'm like, I've worked every day since I was 16. Like in like my part-time job. So I was like, that counts for some years of full-time work experience, right? And then I met with Chris Thompson, and Chris Thompson was like, you should definitely get some more years down, but take the GMAT and see how you do. I took the GMAT the first week of lockdown and completely bombed it. And I was like, okay, I'm not applying. And then later on found out that the GMAT got waived that year because of COVID. Mm-hmm. But I'm actually so glad that I waited those extra 3 years before applying again. So I spent those 3 years just learning a lot about the working and professional world, because we went through so many administrative changes. I took on so many new roles within the Career Center. And yeah, that was definitely a really great experience. So it was UCLA Anderson was always at the back of my head. So I tend to, in life, I always have like an end goal, and I tend to work backwards from that goal and think of every potential challenge and how to get out of it. So yeah, started FEMBA, and then mid FEMBA actually got a position here at the Parker Career Center.
Oh, so wait a minute. Okay.
I was at the UCLA Central Career Center, and then went from one career center to the other. UCLA actually has several career centers, fun fact. But yeah, got a role as a business development manager here. So it's just expanding on building relationships that UCLA Anderson specifically has, and kind of using my knowledge and insights from Central Campus and bringing that onto here. So doing that while being a student. And I always tell people I'm going to retire at UCLA, because I think it's one of the best places to work at. And just being in the public sector and just knowing the impact that we can make on society, and being at a place that's so dynamic, where you're constantly cultivating new relationships, building knowledge, and that it's constantly evolving on such a grander scale, I think is somewhere that I really find myself growing. I think it's really important to have, especially in your career, because I grew up in an environment where like financial stability and security wasn't really a thing. So knowing that when you have that stability and security, you can build off and do so many greater things from that, I think has really inspired me to kind of build my career here and see where I go from there. Awesome. Plus, UCLA has 45,000 employees. There's definitely different opportunities to make an impact and build relationships and move up the non-corporate ladder.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's always good to be comfortable at wherever we work. And like whatever we work, but then it's good that you actually said this of how you got in. It kind of brings back the memories about GMAT and everything that I've had. It's so stupid enough that I actually slogged myself to work on GMAT and everything, and then I gave my GMAT. And then I realized that they waived GMAT off. Yeah. And I didn't even know that. I'm like, why did I even work so much? Yeah. Anyway, it's a good experience.
I took the GMAT multiple times, and it got waived right after the year that I got in. But
that was a whole different task. This GMAT, so yeah, I get it.
There's a lot more to people than standardized tests.
Exactly. Okay, now I just want you to, because you were talking about, how you got in. Let me take back to you, because you spoke about GMAT and everything. Let me take back to you to those interview days. Why MBA, Stella? Why MBA? Why FEMBA here at UCLA Anderson? Of course, you spoke about why UCLA, but then why did you want to do an MBA here in doing whatever you're doing?
So it's funny. So I'm an econ finance major, right? And the way I've always viewed the world is that everything is connected one way or another. And I think especially in business, there's a lot, you have to connect people's personalities, people's interests, the needs of the community and society, and also the standard like financial tables, etc. So I thought business school would be a really great place to learn all that, and especially build on my people skills as well, and not just get a degree in an academic discipline and just go from there. So that is one of the reasons too that I thought business school was the right fit for me. It's funny, there were moments I was looking into doing a master's of economics and realized I suck so bad at math. I'm good at Excel. I love Excel. I'm good at building budgets, but that is a big no-no. And just the community here, I think, is the best in terms of the connections that we have to the professional realm as well. So that is one of the really big reasons that I wanted to do business school.
Awesome, and I hope it served. Huh? You're soon to graduate. I hope it all served.
Oh, it definitely served. Don't get me wrong. The insights and connections that we're able to build, and it's not even just the connections, but the flow of knowledge that you're always going to be able to have through that. I always say, I think the most impactful moments in life that you get is moments that you encounter unintentionally. And I think being in business school, the probability of those moments is so high compared to being anywhere else. Because at the end of the day, you realize the most impactful opportunities that you have, it's typically from other people that you meet that share information with you, not so much of like research that you're doing yourself. And that's like one of the big shifts in me that I noticed going through business school, because before I'm such a big data person. Like I can find out any type of information through the internet. Like, don't get me wrong. And sometimes you go into deep dives and you go into pigeonholes I've been there, done that. I've read the California legislator straight from the source. I tried reading the tariff straight from the source and failed. So it's like, ultimately, at the end of the day, something that I always remind myself that it's people behind the data. So like, even look at ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT, you can search anything you want on it, but the information that it spits out at you is information that people have already provided to the World Wide Web, as they say. So I think kind of rooting myself in that philosophy has been super helpful, because I've noticed too, like an overload of information is not helpful unless you have people to share it with and people that you can work with in order to actualize that information into things that can actually make an impact and difference in the world. So that is one of the things too that I think business school has really given me the opportunity to do.
Absolutely. I mean, you've been highlighting about the network and then establishing relationships and then, the impact you could create on society and everything as well. I would definitely come back to all those things and talk about it. But then let's talk about your student experience over here.
Yes.
Keep your profession aside. Come on, Stella. You've spoken enough about your profession in your first answer itself. I'm going to go back there, but still, let's talk about your student experience over here, because it's kind of it's like a thin layer that's separating you from being an employee here at UCLA Anderson and then again being a student. You need to like step into these shoes. And then in India, I'm from India. In India, we have a saying that if you are traveling, setting your foot on two boats, it's a difficult journey at the end of the day. But you did it in a very successful way. So talk about your student experience, Do you think it was a bit challenging for you to kind of, in the morning, because we were having evening classes in the first year. In the morning, you were an employee. In the evening, you were a student. How did you navigate all that?
It actually wasn't as exhausting as I thought it was going to be, but I think that's also just like from past experience. I've always worked while doing school. And I think actually whenever you work and do school at the same time and in a place that's really interconnected, you get a lot more excited about the work that you're doing and about the schoolwork that you're doing, because you learn like, oh, these things connect with one another. Like I can apply like this scenario that like I went through at work and apply like maybe this theory that we're like learning about in class right now, or like this framework. So I think when you're able to do that, it actually makes both aspects, like the school aspect and the work aspect, really exciting, and it doesn't seem less of a daunting task. Because I think, and I remember during one of the SALT workshops, we were talking about things that we do in school and professionally that give us energy or drain our energy. So I think when you're able to kind of do both at the same time and learn that, oh, like I can actually optimize my time and work and what I learn from the two sources, I think that's actually, it gives you energy and just more excited and motivated about what you're doing. So I think, being a student here, it actually made me a lot more motivated. And I think the fact that we worked in teams, it wasn't like we had like a bunch of work that was like put on us. And it's funny, back when I was an undergrad, I hated team assignments because I felt like it was more of a burden, because I'm pretty type A when it comes to my school and work. So I felt like, oh my God, I'm going to have to put my trust in this person, and they're going to procrastinate and it's going to end up like looking bad on me. So that's how I initially viewed it. But one of the biggest things, like when we started our teams and being a student, is being students that during foundations of leadership. So we did the whole trust building assignment, where both physically and emotionally, we kind of like broke each other down to build us back up. And I think that was one of the most impactful teamwork assignments that we did, that really helped set the tone for how to not only communicate, but listen to each other and understand how other people receive information. Because that, I think I've noted, and I'm so sensitive to seeing that now in other teams that I work with, is like we communicate and we're listening, but the things that we're telling people sometimes, we're not really mindful or considerate of how this person is receiving that information. Like you can say one sentence and 3 different people can understand it in completely different ways. It's kind of, and I think it's so funny too that we noticed that in ChatGPT now, when you give it a prompt and just based on one word placement, it can give you a completely different response. So I think that's like telling of how we communicate in teams and as people. So really understanding that and being able to tell others, hey, if I ever dropped a ball, this is how I want you to remind me to pick the ball back up. So without maybe insulting the other person. So I think learning about that and appreciating people's differences, and it reminds you in a way too that if people didn't have those differences, the world would not be worth living in. It's all about learning about perspectives and seeing that, oh, there's so much more to the world than a systemic way of living or understanding things. So that I think was super insightful. Absolutely. And yeah, foundations of leadership that week, it was like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. But you learned so much in that. And I think like having some of those like principles reinforced throughout the year really helped integrate that into just our day to day. Like even and having those classes in the evenings too helped reinforce that.
Correct. Good that you talk about foundations in leadership. For the class of 28 who are coming, that is, I mean, I would say with everyone who I talk about FILs, that 1 week, that's like a game changer right before your MBA commences. And it's one of the best in the world, I would say. The UCLA Anderson has its FILs. For the class of 28, they're going to come back in the last week of August or first week of September, and they'll do that too. You will all know what we are actually talking about. And this would be information for the class of 29 as well, who will start applying for the UCLA Anderson, the potential aspirants. Yeah. Because what exactly a memorable experience is in FIL, because we had, amazing tasks, both physical, mental, and emotional as well.
If you have trust issues, you will not have trust issues anymore after trusting people you just met to hold you on a rope as you jump off the
Absolutely.
Wall. So, and everyone does it.
I know. I still remember the physical task. Rohit.
Yes.
Rohit and me, we both were on the two ropes.
Yes.
And he has to, we just have to walk. Remember, we just have to walk from one point to other points. We were holding each other. We were just standing on the ropes. We just have to move. And then eventually, the rope, which starts narrow, the gap actually widens when you go to the destination. I don't know if you remember. It's like on 30 feet
yes,
altitude.
Hearts forget.
Oh, yeah. So Rohit was like, I'm trying to be a bit more flexing muscles over there, being a fitness freak. I'm just like a bit strong and all. I said, Rohit, trust me. And Rohit just blindly trusted me. I told him probably at least 75 to 80 times, don't just give up. Don't give up. Let's just go. And he was like completely holding me. I said, trust me, I'm strong enough. Just put your weight on me. And then we could actually go 3/4 of it. We didn't even think we would be finishing off at least half of it. But then 3/4. It was a great experience. Like when you said trust, building trust, amazing. What about your experience?
Exactly. And that's one of the things you could kind of to generalize. It's I remember when it was my job back in undergrad. So my boss at that time trusted me a lot more than I trusted myself. And I think even though if we're scared to trust other people, you realize that how important giving trust to others is.
Correct.
Because that's how trust is going to be reciprocated back to you.
Absolutely.
So that's also one of the biggest things that I've learned is you can't just live life in fear, because ultimately at the end of the day you can't make an impact in the world by just doing things yourself.
Absolutely.
Even if you let's say build a product yourself, right, and the credit's all to you, that product will not come to fruition unless other people are using it, regardless of whether they're on your team or not. That's just like an analogy that I referenced. But yeah, foundations of leadership. And it's amazing too, because my team had so many different people coming from different backgrounds and just generally different personalities that outside in not the real world, we are in the real world, but we wouldn't generally be found in the same social circles, but we had built such an amazing bond just from our differences. So I think that's one of the other really beautiful things about business school is that people that have different perspectives and backgrounds than you really are able to come together and appreciate everyone's differences
100%.
And really just love and enjoy each other's company. I think that's a really big thing. Our team was really good at doing little gatherings and get-togethers, and we built out our camaraderie, as they say, which was super, super nice. And just going to our happy hours after class and just being able to talk about things outside of work, I feel really helped us be really great teammates as well. And that really did carry on, I think, throughout the entire program. So that's I could never I can never appreciate that enough.
Wow, that's great. I mean, I have a fond experience when you talk about trust, the support that we get from cohorts. Even the tasks were so impressive, and then the support we get from the professors as well. I still remember Dean Dylan Stafford is here, our only audience over here in the studio, actually. So I still remember he had his own session about leadership, public speaking. So amazing way where we kind of make notes. He still follows that file and then just make notes in the stick file. Being a TV host for 12 years, for some reason that day was not my day.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bit stressed. I don't know. I still remember I got a call from my home about my brother, my younger brother, my own one, my sibling back in India. He got hospitalized because of dengue.
I'm sorry.
It was, he's pretty good. He's a doctor. I got a phone call. It kind of made me totally depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't able to concentrate on this specific session. I walked up to him. I said, "Sir, I'm not in a position to do this," because there were sessions.
Mm-hmm.
You remember, sir? We just have to go, and then in the groups we have to speak and record each other's 1 minute record each other public speaking thing. I couldn't do it. Being a TV host in front of camera, speaking to millions of people, I couldn't do it. I kind of didn't work. And he was like, "Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
It's okay. Don't worry about it." And then he comes back to me the next day and then he says, "Hey, you know what? I actually changed a few things. I've reduced the length of that session because I see that it's a bit stressful to a lot of people because you said 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
He changed everything. That is a support that we get, I really love the way it worked out. It's like, okay, this is a feedback. And instantly the next day itself it was changed. It was like, okay, let me make it pretty easy and not too stressful.
No, yeah,
That's what I get. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dylan. That, and kind of piggybacking off of that, one of the things too, so as professionals, we're still people, correct? And we're used to sometimes doing things on autopilot and taking off more than we can chew. And that eventually catches up to you. And it catches up to you in a really real way, to the point where you can reach a point where you just completely lose all motivation. Burnout is crazy. And one of the biggest things too that we've learned here is to communicate when we're going through something, because a lot of the times you're ashamed to say, "Hey, I'm going through this right now. I'm not able to pull my weight at the moment, but I will know how to make it up later," because you feel like you're slacking and you never want to do that. But I think having more open dialogue to that and learning how to do that effectively and trusting that people aren't going to take advantage of that is such a valuable skill set, I think, to have, and just to make sure that everyone's spirits are aligned, because ultimately at the end of the day, we were talking about this earlier, behind a business and behind success are people, and people are multifaceted. So it's really, really important to be mindful of that. And see, those are the things that business school teaches us that a PhD in economics could not. So
absolutely.
It's
business school. I mean, they groom leaders, as they say, and then this is how they help. I mean, like, we're as UCLA Anderson students, I'm not boasting about UCLA Anderson per se, but then the experiences that we've had, amazing experiences, how we evolved ourselves. I mean, like, becoming and bettering every day. And you were talking about a lot of being this student and an employee simultaneously since you were 16, if I'm not wrong. What was the story behind that? Was it, if someone's so young and still working, there's a different thought process that goes behind them. And like for some, it could be necessity. For some, it could be efficiency, to bring out efficiency from within. For some, it could be exploring, uncharted waters. And there are different thought processes. What was yours?
So mine was definitely the need for financial stability and knowing that if I'm able to support myself, then I can build a much bigger life for myself. And I never viewed a career or employment as, I need to make the maximum that I can make. Mm-hmm. I always view a job as a resource, or a career as a resource, because that's another important thing that I think people forget. You can be so one person can have $1,000 and another person can have $1 million. And the next day, both of them can be at $0 just based on what they do with it. Or a year later, that person with $1,000 can have $500,000 and that person with $1 million can be back to zero. I've always viewed money as something that is financial resource that I can build that allows me to build a better future for myself based on how I allocate it. Mm-hmm. So I'm very big on budgets. I have my budget planned out for the next year because I think because I think it's really important to know what this resource can build for yourself, and also for you not to be in a, let's say if you're in a career that pays a lot but you're miserable. Mm-hmm. That is not a place that you want to be at, and it's not going to be good for building out your success and just building out your growth as an individual. So I've always looked at a career as that, and also, and another thing too is obviously like when you're getting a job at 16, like I applied the second I turned 16, I went and applied to whoever was hiring a 16-year-old. But even if I was at a job, like let's say working at a retail store that I found boring, I always looked at the other different avenues or different ways that I can do that job without it seeming boring for myself. For example, I'm folding clothes, right? Or you have to give customer service to people that maybe aren't being like the kindest to you. I would always like make a little challenge for myself of like, what can I say or do? Like gamified in a sense. Mm-hmm. I know we love that word. Mm-hmm. What can I say or do that is going to kind of like, that is going to provide me insights or allow me to learn something new. So that is essentially the reason behind why I started working at a young age. And also I love working and just knowing different ways that you can contribute to society. But yeah, the financial need was definitely the root foundation of it, which I mean, it is for everyone, especially in those early stages.
I was the same. I mean, yes. Even before I was telling you about it, I was teaching the 10th grade physics back in the day. So yeah, it's all about that. Yeah, it's about financial necessity, but then it's kind of.
But once you have that, it's always like once you have that, then you start looking at it from a different perspective and different lens. You're not operating from a place of lack, but you're operating from a place of sufficiency, which I think is important to get there.
Absolutely. And then you were talking about. I'll get back to your student experience back again. I'm just like going back and forth. We're talking about relationships. Impact on the society. I've seen when if you guys go on to Stella's LinkedIn profile, you can see that, and almost 90% of her roles were like establishing relationships with people, networking, talking to people, and that is the reason you could see. I mean, like how that the flow of words that she has, that she's pretty good at that. So talk about that. Why networking and establishing relationships has been so important for you with respect to the roles that you actually chose. Even now, business development manager, you're meeting and everything. You're meeting so many companies, and then helping out students over here with their careers post MBA, and even during MBA, she gives me all career advices. Or usually as well. So what exactly is so special about those specific roles that really attracted you, and you were like, I want to be here, and I even want to retire over here doing all the same thing.
Okay, you want to know a funny thing? I was actually a very, very big introvert. And no, I need to be by myself to recharge. And I still do. Now, what was it? The ENTJ test? The 16 personalities test. Yeah. Okay, I'm more on the extrovert side now, but I still need to be alone to recharge. And I was a very big data person. I like being by the computer, just researching, doing the whole 9 yards regarding that. But one of the things that I really learned is how much satisfaction and fulfillment I get after an interaction. So I'm the type of person, I'm really good at sustaining a relationship, but it's really difficult for me to do that initial like outreach or going up to the person. But I've learned to psych myself out of that fear just from like even being at Anderson and being able to do a lot of networking and getting more comfortable with myself and trusting myself. And just, I mean, we all sometimes get scared of like being the person in the room and like, getting that sense of intimidation. So learning how to overcome that, I think was like one of the biggest milestones that I went throughout my MBA. But again, realizing how fulfilling it is after that interaction happens and after you get over that little fear kind of has kept a loop of motivation going. And also it's like whenever like being in like your introvert state, I feel like you definitely need a balance of both, because I've had points in my life where it's like you feel lonely, and that is not a place that you want to be. And you realize ultimately at the end of the day, life is about connection and being able to build relationships and learn from people. So kind of going back to that foundation and root within ourselves as individuals is something that really does like help keep me motivated in building those relationships. And one of the things too that I love seeing is how people evolve over time.
Correct.
It's not just about, that initial interaction and then saying bye. And that I remember like initially that was like also a fear of mine when it came to building relationships. I never wanted to build a relationship with someone for the sake of it being transactional, especially if I knew, I'm never going to see that person again. But looking at it that way can deter you from so many just opportunities to meet people and just learn from them, because you can learn something from someone that's going to change your life in a 5-minute conversation.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to look at it like, I shouldn't go up to this person, I'm never going to see them again, etc. But I think also it's important to learn how to trust and understand yourself, to not overextend yourself to the point where you feel like you're not kind of holding true to who you are, or you're just networking to network. I know in business school sometimes that we're always told to network, but you also want to do that with intention.
Correct.
So that's where like the research and the introvert side in me comes into play. I'm pretty good at, again, finding information about things and about people.
No, you're good at what you're doing, actually. I mean, like, you...
Not to come off weird, but...
no, definitely not.
Public information.
You're kind of establishing those relationships, networks, and you're kind of creating that impact on the people.
And one person can allow you to meet other people accidentally that are going to, again, be a very big and important part in your life. So.
I agree, 100%. I agree. I completely agree. That's great. I mean, see, you have a backing, you have a strong reasoning behind why you're doing and what you're doing, and you're enjoying that. That's the most important thing, where we have to enjoy what we're doing. And coming back to the student, now, 3 years just passed by, just like that.
Honestly, I would have cried if I wasn't working here and I was like full on leaving. So now that actually comforts me, because sometimes I get scared to do outreach to alumni. I'm like, I don't want to come off like too pushy, but I'm like, I would, if I was done with Anderson, I would love to like have the opportunity to come back. So side note. Just trying to motivate myself.
You always have the opportunity to come back and do PhD.
That's why I'm gonna work at UCLA for those.
Someone was telling. I was thinking about like, how about doing a PhD at UCLA Anderson?
Got your JD.
Yeah, and maybe Professor Kramer, and someone was like, "Are you crazy?"
PhD? I thought about that because I was like, it's my destiny to be a lawyer, but if I was actually a lawyer, I would hate my life. Shout out to all the lawyers out there, but
very well. Anyway,
Dylan is cracking up in the background.
I mean, now you guys know why I said she always so smart. She has got this breezy way. Like every time we see her, she's just like cracking and smiling, and that epitome of this pleasant aura.
This is personally to me. I'm not saying lawyers hate their life.
Oh well. Now, what about the memorable experiences in your FEMBA journey over here?
Well, I will start with the one that me and you were on together recently.
Great, go ahead.
Our global immersion. It was honestly, it was only a week, but we felt like we were in China and Singapore, and just the opportunity to even go to China. Just given the geopolitical climates that exist, but also the relationship that the US and a lot of other countries have with China, being able to firsthand go there, I think was one of the most impactful and transformative experiences too. And going to see the world, not just for vacation, but actually learning about the companies and the amount of information that we learned during that time. In those 7 days, I felt like, wow, it was just the most transformative experience. I think study abroad opportunities, and I made sure even in undergrad to take advantage of study abroad opportunities. It's some of the greatest that you'll ever have in your entire life.
I agree.
So and there's so many different types of global immersions here at Anderson, and treks too, which is super fun. And the Global Access Program GAP, we had the opportunity to go to Lithuania.
Oh, you did?
Yes. Me and Trey went, and being able to consult a company who's trying to enter the US market, that in itself, you learn so much, because it's not just about, let me see this country, but it's, how is this country interacting with the US on a business basis. And just the amount of research that we did, it was incredible. And learning how different communities and governments work together.
Do we even have the option still? So Terry Kramer, do we even have the option?
To what?
without doing a lot of research and everything. We have to do that.
We have to do that. It's not only doing the research though, but it's about using that to create and come up with something on our own. Which, that's why he's Professor of the.
I know. So, Global Immersion China and talk about Singapore, your experiences there much more, because Global Immersion China and Singapore is such a good experience. I personally, I was there. Exactly. Let's talk about both academic and also the fun activities there. Let's
the fun activities.
Fun is so good.
The fun activities, yes, and that's one of the most impactful aspects too. It's like it's funny, we got so close to our class when we were in country, and just learning how to navigate different cultural norms and learning from them, I think is super insightful, because we have the universal languages like smiling, for example, right? Smiling, and I think just seeing how people do business, and for example, Tencent too, when we went to visit Tencent, and just seeing how horizontal the company is versus here, we typically say specialize in one certain area and be really good at that. But then seeing that, but obviously China's government's completely different in that sense, but just seeing how you can use information from a lot of different areas to make one or many incredible products versus just specializing in one. That's kind of like going back to like my philosophy of connecting the dots of the world to make better sense and understand it. But just seeing how over time too, both Shenzhen and Singapore are fairly new.
Correct.
And seeing the transformation that happens and is going to continue to happen, I think is so incredible to see like firsthand with your own two eyes. And that's one of the biggest things too, is change, right? Usually people are intimidated or not too fond of change, but learning how to be really comfortable with change, both as a country and both as people, is such an important thing. So that's I think some of the biggest takeaways too, and just the number of visits that we had. It kind of motivates me, and it's funny too. Shout out the Parker Center. I was able to actually do some of my actual work for Anderson, a couple of days after the program. So those two interconnecting with one another, I think, is super insightful and helpful too.
I know. I mean, I kind of envy you for that, because you had to stay back in Singapore, you were posting all those pictures going around. Apart from meeting people for your professional work, I was like, come on, Stella, stop posting these pictures. You were like on the group. Like,
that's it's a core memory.
One fun story with me was like me and Stella, and on the last day we had to. I was trying to buy some gifts for my better half. So I was like, Stella, I need to go. Let's go to some. What store was that?
It was Sephora, and it was in the underground.
Underground. We had to walk so long.
We got very lost.
And then it was fun. And
it was getting lost in the mall. And we were underground.
We were underground. So in Singapore, you cannot really walk on the roads. You cannot cross roads. You had the only way to cross roads. You pedestrians should walk underground in the subways. So we lost in that. And subways are so huge. It's like a mall with the underground.
It's funny, when I was by myself, though, the subways are actually so easy and it's so intuitive.
We walked so long. We've learned a lot in that one trip.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy too. Like, just like within like those extra few days of being there, I picked up on the subways instantly. Yes. It's actually not as complicated. Not as complicated as it looked.
That one of my best, funniest experiences with Stella, Stella and I, we were like walking, and we were running out of time because I just had to catch my flight. Go back. I mean, we were supposed to. We
had the last dinner. Yes.
Last dinner.
The last supper.
It was great.
The last supper in Singapore.
That was great, and she had to stay back. That's a great story. Other good memorable experience apart from Global Immersion in your FEMBA.
Oh my God, so many. The Mammoth trips.
Oh, Mammoth.
I think were super, super fun and exciting. So, there's so many I can name specifically. But yeah, Mammoth trip, I learned how to ski, kind of, not really. Fell off a mountain for $300. No, I'm kidding. The second time. So yes, that was super, super, super fun. And just one of the things that I appreciate so much about FEMBA is the opportunities that you get to interact with your peers outside of the classroom. And both in and outside of the classroom, and just build those lifelong relationships is so higher than any sorority that I could have been in undergrad, any sort of high school club, like, and I wouldn't think that business school was the place where we were going to be able to do that. But it really just shows how much value there is to that person-to-person engagement. Mm-hmm. It's not just about the degree. It's not just about the job, but it's really learning how to value and engage and connect with people. That's, I think, my biggest takeaways. That's going to carry me on for the rest of my life, because ultimately, if people want to be successful, get rich, do the whole, like, general reasons as to why people want to pursue higher education, it really is about the connections and relationships and the people that you make, and just learning how to interact with people on a non-transactional basis too. I think is something that has been such a valuable and transformative experience for me here as well.
And academics wise, when you talk about your experience,
academics wise, that has been so amazing as well. Like, even everything that I've learned in the classroom too. So we have some of the greatest professors known to mankind, and just the way that the professors are really encourage dialogue and valuable conversations in the discussions that we have in class, I think is really, really important. It's about asking the right questions and building and that's, again, one of the other things too, is sometimes, we're worried too much about the answers and not thinking too much about the questions that are needed to be asked. So that, I think, professors are amazing at facilitating that and just providing us the resources that we need. I save every single PowerPoint presentation that we've been given in class.
Me too.
So
same here.
Every single one. They're all organized in my folders, and I actually have referenced some of them. So
you have the folders as well for that?
They're on my iCloud.
And everything?
I paid 2 terabytes of I paid 2 terabytes.
I do that too.
iCloud, and everything is saved on there.
I do that too. It's like year 1, fall, and then you got different subjects.
I know. I have it by the quarter, by the class. Everything is saved. Because
I still remember Professor Kramer was a few weeks ago. He looked at that. He was like, "Isn't this organized?" I'm like, "Yes, sir. This is how it is organized." And
I organize all the photos in my camera roll like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's when you're a researcher and you collect a lot of data. It's important to organize it.
Yeah. We always say over here, but one thing, if we ask about why is FEMBA pretty good, Dean Dylan Stafford, he was sitting over here, always he says is that you learn over here and the next day you go implement at your work. What do you say about that? How did that help?
I go downstairs and I go back
upstairs. You go upstairs.
Yeah. my job is literally to do that. But even if I wasn't working at UCLA, just everything that we learn in class. For example, I took a class on product management, right? And my job is to source companies and like just see like what the general job descriptions of like these positions are. So I can tell you a lot about what the general corporate world is looking for in their job descriptions and what we learn in class. And I think there's a lot of alignment there. So those are areas that I think the curriculum that we learn in class, not only the relationships, but the actual curriculum is going to be extremely valuable moving up. And I can say that working from a career services perspective and reading JDs for my job and building relationships with companies, that what we learn, we really are able to apply it in the corporate world.
A shout out to class of 2028. Related. Here's a person. Stella is always here. Any questions, any doubts? She's a sweetheart. She always gives all the information. And
There's no point in gatekeeping information. Because people we live in a day and age where if you want to find out something, you can find it out. But you might have to put in a lot more hours to it. But if you know people, I feel like I just messed my hair. I apologize. But if you know people,
you look great.
If you know people that are able to provide that in a much quicker basis, I do not believe in people gatekeeping information. So that is why I will never gatekeep information unless I'm legally obligated to.
Great. That's good. That's good. You're providing information. And I don't want to, because Stella's got a great social life outside of Anderson as well. So I just want to talk about the activities outside of Anderson. We want to know about it. I want to learn it from that too, because I'm like pretty weak, pretty poor with respect to the activities outside of Anderson. Social life. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've been living in LA here for 6 years, and in LA, not Glendale. I mean, down here in like San Monica, Westwood area. So I feel like I'm pretty well seasoned. So we have like our close group of friends here. One of the things that I actually love doing is just finding new places to go to, either if that's by myself or with my friends. I've gotten pretty comfortable also doing things by myself too, because in LA, there's so many scenic spots, restaurants, bars, clubs, entertainment providers. Just outings, lounges. I will say that national parks, beaches. That I remember back during COVID, I made a bucket list and I went on Google Maps. I actually love Google Maps and just Google Maps Street View. That's actually how I find out different places to go to. And I zoomed in on PCH and I looked at every single beach that was like on Malibu coast. And there was like 30 of them and I wrote them down and I crossed it off my bucket list. So I can say I have been every beach in Malibu. So doing things like that, and just going to different coffee shops or just finding new environments that are going to stimulate some excitement in you. Because one of the things that I feel like, especially living in LA, that you should never do is just be in the same place at the same time. There's so much out there. Even restaurants, I will not go. Even if I love the restaurant, I will not go to the same restaurant twice.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's several that I've been to multiple times, but just like seeing the many different places and environments that are out there, I think is something that I love to do in my free time, whether that's by myself or with my friends. I love concerts. I love house music. I said that quietly. And ever since I got ClassPass, I'm a Pilates princess. Kind of. Not really. Okay, I'm not going to claim that title. But I used to just think walking everywhere was my way of staying fit. And now that I'm 2 years away from 30, I'm like, gotta build the muscles and be a lot more mindful of my health and getting sleep. I used to operate on autopilot and think I can run on 3 hours of sleep. Mm-hmm. No, you can't. So being a lot more mindful of like health and just your physical body that carries you through the rest of your life, I think has been some things I've been investing in. I also actually love cooking. No one knows this. Yes.
How good are you?
I would say I'm pretty good.
I trust
and I'm actually I'm an artsy person. I haven't had time to draw, but when I get in the mood, I love aesthetics and just things that, it's funny. I wanted to be a fashion designer before business school. I wanted to UCR as a studio arts major before I changed it to economics. But then this is why I like career services. I actually looked at the jobs that were out there for artists or fashion designers. And I was like, absolutely not. I saw myself in a 9-to-5 office, but wanted to be a fashion designer. And I'm like, those two don't go together. But anything related to aesthetics and just what do they say, feng shui. Mm-hmm. I love like just being around that, or just, painting and drawing is one of my side hobbies I will get back to when I have more time.
Cool. But everything she said about academics, about what she's doing in LA, everything. I mean, ones who are coming, the class of 2028, who are moving to Los Angeles for this, please make a note of all these things. One last shout out, if you have to say one sentence or a couple of sentences to the class of 2028 students who kind of come in.
Don't put me on. I hate it when I'm put on the spot.
Good
one
that
of the
I did
things
that.
I would say, be open. And you will learn so many new things about yourself if you're open to it. And it's going to be one of the most fulfilling experiences of your entire life.
Great. Yes. And one last thing. If you have to give a bear hug to someone so special in your life, who is it going to be and why?
Okay, if I had to give a bear hug to anyone, it would be my mom and brother because, can it be two people?
Oh,
okay, yes, because as much as sometimes I give them a hard time, they really do help keep me in check, and have played a pivotal part in my success. So that's who I would give a bear hug to.
Great, that's great. Thank you so much, Stella. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
It's one of the funniest and so entertaining. You spoke a lot about things, serious stuff, funny stuff.
You have to add a little laughter to the series.
Oh, we have to do. Absolutely. It is so
Can't
engaging.
Take life too seriously.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Please stay tuned. We're going to bring in so many other guests as well in the Celebrate 2025 season. So, stay tuned to this UCLA Anderson Drive Time podcast. Thank you so much.